Welcome to Unik Monk. Tonight the world grows quiet around you and the night becomes a gentle sanctuary. You have carried enough weight today, enough thoughts, emotions, tasks, and expectations. Now you are invited to set everything down and simply be exactly as you are. The stories you'll hear tonight were never created for entertainment. They were shared slowly across generations, in moments of stillness between flickering lamplight and silence, between a single breath and the next small understanding. They come from a time when people listened with the heart, not the mind. Before we begin, pause for a moment. Where are you listening from? And what time is it for you now? Yes, please comment now and like this video, and subscribe to your favorite channel, Unik Monk. When we share these small details, we join a quiet circle, a circle held together not by urgency, but by rest. The stories you'll hear do not require beliefs or explanations. They ask only for your presence. Let them settle inside you gently, like soft snow resting on calm water. No need to figure anything out. No need to interpret. Just breathe. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. Let the doorway of the mind loosen and open. When you are ready, the first story will enter. The river stretched wide beneath the pale morning sky, its surface so still it seemed carved from glass. A faint silver mist drifted over it, curling like the breath of a dreaming world. At the far edge of the river stood a solitary crane, motionless, waiting for the water to still. On the opposite bank, Master Cain walked toward the shore. His robe was the muted color of early dawn, simple and worn. He carried nothing but a wooden bowl, and in his gaze there was a quietness deep enough to make even the wind pause as he passed. Dozens of students had already gathered beneath a cluster of old cedar trees. Some sat cross-legged in the fallen needles. Others stood in reflection, watching the slow-moving river. They knew today's teaching would be brief, but one they would remember. Master Cain stepped onto a smooth stone at the river's edge and seated himself. The water drifted behind him with a slow, steady current. In the hush of morning, he began to speak. There was once a traveler, he said, who lived beside a river much like this. Each dawn, the man bathed in its cool waters. Each evening, he listened to the wind whisper through the tall reeds. One day, as he meditated on the shore, he saw a small raft drifting toward him. Several students glanced at the water, almost expecting to see it. The raft was empty, Master Cain continued. No ropes, no paddle, no person guiding it. Just a simple wooden raft carried by the current. The traveler smiled. There was peace in its silence, no demands, no conversation, nothing to disturb the stillness around him. Master Cain breathed slowly and continued. But weeks later, while the traveler was meditating again, another raft appeared. This time a man was sitting inside. The students grew quiet. As the raft neared the shore, it drifted sideways and bumped into the traveler. Master Cain paused. The traveler leapt up, furious. He shouted. He scolded the man. He demanded to know why he wasn't steering. A few of the younger students shifted uncomfortably. But when the first raft struck him, the empty one, he felt no anger at all. Cain said softly, "There was no one to blame, no insult to receive, no self to defend." He gazed at the river flowing behind him. "Anger rises," he continued, "when we believe another person is the cause of our suffering. When we think, this should not have happened to me. When we see ourselves as a rigid thing that must be protected." The air grew still around them. "But what if," he said gently, "we recognize that most rafts and most people are being carried by currents they do not see?" A small wind moved through the cedar branches. "When someone speaks harshly," Cain said, "they too are being pushed by a river of fear, confusion, pain, habits, and old wounds, just as the empty raft was carried by the water." He let the words breathe. "To shout at such a person," he said, "is like shouting at the river. It exhausts you, it changes nothing, and it was never personal." A young student named Ryan, who had recently argued with another novice, lifted his head. "Master," Ryan said, "but what if someone harms us intentionally? Isn't that different than an empty raft?" Master Cain nodded. "Yes," he said, "intention matters. But even those who intend harm are often guided by storms they do not understand. He looked at Rian with kindness. The one who lashes out may be guarding an old wound. The one who lies may be frightened. The one who blames may feel lost. Kayan's voice softened further. And when we react with anger, we too are caught in our own drifting raft, believing someone is steering it, when in truth we are moved by our own unseen currents. He fell silent, letting the river speak in his place for a long moment. The Buddha's gaze drifted back toward the water, as though the river itself wished to offer the next lesson. But when you remember, he continued, his voice soft as drifting mist, that every being moves according to causes and conditions, then compassion becomes natural, not forced, not practiced. It rises the way dawn rises, simply because night has ended. A quiet stillness spread among the monks, not the stillness of discipline, but of realization. The heron across the river dipped its beak into the water and then lifted its wings, slow and deliberate, as though bowing to the teaching. Taran, another monk sitting a little behind the others, felt something shift within him. He had always been proud of his patience, until someone disturbed it. He had believed himself calm, until life refused to behave according to his plans. He understood suddenly that his peace had been conditional, borrowed, easily shaken. The Buddha turned his bowl gently in his hands. In this life, he said, you will be touched by many boats, some empty, some not, some guided by gentle hands, some spinning wildly in their own storms. But if you anchor your peace to their movements, you will forever be tossed about. A soft breeze brushed the grass, as if nodding in agreement. Peace is not the river, he said. Peace is the shore. The monks breathed out slowly, letting the words ripple through them. Far in the distance, the faint cry of a coal echoed once and faded. The Buddha continued. There was once a traveler, he said, named Joran. He journeyed from village to village, carrying a small clay lamp. Each night he lit it, believing that its warm glow protected him. One evening, as he walked through a dense forest, a sudden gust of wind shattered the flame. The monks leaned in slightly, listening. Joran panicked, the Buddha said gently. He believed the darkness itself was a threat. But when he finally paused, breathing into the night, he realized the darkness had always been there. His lamp had not kept it away. It had only kept him from seeing it. A leaf loosened from a branch and drifted silently to the ground. When the light fails, the Buddha said, we discover the world did not collapse. Only our illusion of control did. Taran lowered his gaze. Many illusions inside him had begun to crack. The Buddha looked over the gathering, his eyes soft, unhurried. In each of you, he said, there is a vast stillness, deeper than the river, older than these trees, untouched by insult or praise. To find it, you must stop chasing boats, stop defending lamps, stop wrestling with the river's flow. He raised his hands slightly, palm open, as though releasing something to the wind. Let the world bump into you, he said. Let people misunderstand you, judge you, even speak unkindly. Do not cling, do not grasp, do not build stories of me and mine around every passing moment. The air seemed to hum with quiet clarity. For when you stop insisting that life obey your expectations, he said, you become free. Free like the river, free like the sky, free like the boat with no one inside. He fell silent, and for a long moment, no one moved. Even the wind paused, as if the earth itself were listening. One of the elder monks, serene and silver-haired, closed his eyes. He had lived many years seeking answers through effort, discipline, sacrifice, but now, a gentler truth touched him. Peace was always present. He had simply been too loud inside himself to hear it. The Buddha rose slowly from the stone, his movements unhurried, as though time had softened its grip around him. His robe brushed lightly against the earth. He looked once more at the river. Remember, he said, you are not the noise of your thoughts. You are the space in which the noise appears. He began walking toward the Bodhic trees, the monks rising one by one to follow. But before they reached the grove, he spoke once more, his voice like a warm lantern in the dusk. When you see an empty boat, smile. When you see a full boat, breathe gently. And when your own mind becomes a storm, step out of the boat and rest on the shore. The monks bowed, the river shimmered, and morning unfolded like a quiet prayer. The monks followed the Buddha toward the grove, their footsteps soft on the dew-covered earth. Between the tall Bodic trees, morning light filtered in thin golden threads, touching the leaves gently, as though greeting an old friend. The scent of damp soil and distant blossoms drifted in the air, relaxing even those who had arrived with unsettled minds. One monk, a quiet young man named Samid, walked a little slower than the rest. Though his face was calm, his heart carried a weight he had not yet spoken aloud. He often struggled with unkind thoughts toward himself, doubts that came like birds at dusk, returning again and again, no matter how often he released them. As they settled beneath the tree canopy, the Buddha paused and sat on a smooth stone root. The monks formed a circle around him, breaths soft, eyes lowered, hearts open. The Buddha looked up briefly at the sky, now brightening into a soft blue. Even the morning, he said, does not try to become the night. It simply is what it is, until it changes. Samid felt the words touch something inside him, something raw. The Buddha continued, "There is a teaching older than any scripture. It does not live in words, nor in chants, nor in debates. It lives in the simple honesty of seeing things as they are." A distant rustle of leaves drifted through the grove. "A potter once came to me," the Buddha said, complaining that his clay kept cracking as he shaped it. He believed his skills were weak. He blamed his hands, his tools, even the sun for drying the clay too fast. But when I visited his workshop, I saw the truth. The monks listened intently. He had been shaping the clay with too much force, the Buddha said gently. He wanted it to obey him immediately. He wanted perfection before patience. He lifted a fallen leaf and turned it slowly between his fingers. "Your mind," he said, "is shaped no differently. When you force it, it cracks." Samid swallowed quietly. His mind often felt cracked. "A mind frightened by its own thoughts," the Buddha said, "only needs gentleness, not judgment." The grove fell silent again, the kind of silence that softens the heartbeat. "There was once a woman named Lyra," the Buddha continued. "Every morning she swept the courtyard of her home. One day, a traveler approached and asked her why she swept so slowly. The Buddha made a small sweeping motion with his hand. She smiled and said, "If I sweep quickly, the dust returns quickly. But if I sweep slowly, the dust settles within me too." Several monks breathed deeply, letting the image sink into their awareness. Your inner dust, your worries, self-doubts, regrets, cannot be swept away with force, he said. Let them settle gently. Watch them without fear. With time, they will dissolve like fog under the sun. A soft warmth spread across the group. Samid felt tears gather in the corners of his eyes. Not from sadness, but from relief, like finally setting down a burden carried alone for too long. The Buddha placed the leaf on the ground and looked around the circle. "Do not be in a hurry to become peaceful," he said softly. "Peace is not a goal, it is a return." A faint breeze stirred the Bodic leaves, making a delicate, rustling whisper, like the grove itself offering comfort. "Inside each of you," the Buddha said, "there is a place untouched by noise, untouched by anger, untouched by fear. You may not visit it often, you may forget it exists, but it is always there, waiting." Samid closed his eyes, letting the words settle like soft rain. The Buddha continued, "When you feel overwhelmed, do not climb higher, do not struggle harder. Sit down, breathe, and let the inner river clear itself." The monks remained still, absorbing the teaching as naturally as trees absorbing sunlight. "And remember," the Buddha added gently, "you are not failing when you return to stillness. You are returning home." A deep peace descended over the grove. Birdsong began, soft and tentative, as though the forest itself felt calmer now. The monks bowed their heads. The Buddha rose slowly and began walking through the filtered light. The morning, now fully awake, glowed around him, but his presence made it seem even quieter. Samid, feeling lighter than he had in months, whispered to himself, The empty boat, the broken clay, the settling dust, all are showing me the same path. He smiled, a quiet smile only he felt, and followed the others, his heart no longer cracked, but softening. The world, too, seemed to soften with him. As the monks continued walking through the grove, the morning sun rose a little higher, spilling warm light across the forest floor. Each ray seemed to touch the world slowly, carefully, as though it did not want to disturb the quiet unfolding of the day. They followed the Buddha along a narrow path bordered by soft moss and small white flowers that opened only in the early hours. Dewdrops clung to their petals like tiny lanterns, glowing faintly before melting into the earth. Further ahead, the path widened into a small clearing where a stone well stood, old, cracked along the edges, yet still holding clear water that reflected the sky like a mirror. Birds perched along the rim, dipping their beaks in and fluttering their wings with delight. The Buddha paused there and turned slightly toward the monks. "This well," he said softly, "has never refused a single traveler. No matter who comes, rich or poor, kind or unkind, it reflects them without judgment." The monks gathered around silently. "Water," he continued, "teaches us one of the oldest lessons. It accepts everything, but holds on to nothing." The breeze shifted gently, making ripples dance across the surface of the well. "Many of you," the Buddha said, "carry memories that bruise you, words spoken long ago, mistakes you replay again and again, faces you avoid even in your dreams." A few monks lowered their eyes. Samid felt the truth of the words strike something tender within him. "But look at the water," the Buddha said, pointing to the ripples. "When a stone is dropped into it, the surface trembles, it shakes, it moves, but it does not stay troubled." He dipped his hand into the well, then slowly lifted it out, letting droplets fall back in gentle circles that spread outward and then disappeared. "In the same way," he whispered, "your mind trembles when life throws stones. But it is not meant to stay disturbed. The trembling is temporary. The stillness is your true nature." Samid felt a long-held breath escape from his chest. The Buddha looked at him kindly, though he had said nothing aloud. "To return to peace," the Buddha said, "you must stop stirring the water yourself." A soft hush passed through the clearing. The wind seemed to agree. The Buddha then stepped aside, gesturing toward a shaded area beneath a broad banyan tree. Its roots curled over the ground, like gentle waves frozen in time, forming a natural seat. One by one, the monks settled there. Some leaned lightly against the roots, some sat upright. All appeared ready, not with eagerness, but with quiet willingness. The Buddha sat in front of them, his presence calm as the still water they had just seen. "There is another story," he said, folding his hands in his lap. "One that belongs to a teacher named Serene, many years before my time." The grove seemed to listen with them. "Serene had a student," the Buddha continued, "a young man named Anak, who struggled with his own thoughts. Every day Anak would complain, 'Master, my mind is full of noise. Fear, anger, regret, they return again and again. I cannot find silence.'" Many monks smiled gently. The struggle sounded familiar. Serene did not answer immediately. Instead, the Buddha said, he asked Anak to meet him by a lake at dawn the next morning. The monk straightened slightly. When Anak arrived, the Buddha said, the lake was perfectly still. Not a ripple, not a wave, a single leaf floated like a tiny boat over its surface. He extended his hand as though touching the image. Serene asked his student, "What do you see?" And Anak replied, "Peace." The Buddha paused, letting the words settle into them like warm light. Then Serene picked up a stick, the Buddha continued, and stirred the water. The leaf spun, the surface shook, mud rose from the bottom. The monks could imagine it, clear water turning cloudy. Serene then looked at Anak and asked, "Now what do you see?" Anak said, "Confusion." The Buddha's voice softened even more. Serene smiled gently and said, "Both peace and confusion come from the same water. Do not blame the lake for the stick." A deep silence filled the clearing. "Your thoughts," the Buddha said, are not enemies. They are echoes. They rise, they fall, they settle. When you stop stirring, they return to clarity on their own. A monk in the back exhaled slowly, as though releasing a heavy stone from his heart. Samid felt the message seep into him, not as an idea but as a relief. The Buddha closed his eyes for a brief moment. When he opened them again, they carried the softness of moonlight. Every moment, he said, life invites you to choose stillness, not by force, but by allowing. The forest seemed to breathe with them, each leaf shimmering in the tender morning air. No one spoke. No one needed to. The teaching had entered them, not as words, but as calm. A long, warm silence followed, deep, healing, and full. The day, still young, felt spacious. And in that spaciousness, the monks felt themselves return, slowly, gently, to the peacefulness they had forgotten, but never lost. The silence in the grove grew richer, stretching softly between the trees like a warm blanket. Nothing hurried here. Not the wind, not the earth, not the hearts of those who listened. Even the birds seemed to move slower, hopping from branch to branch with quiet respect for the moment unfolding. The Buddha sat still for a while, allowing the previous story to sink into the monks like water soaking into dry soil. When he finally spoke again, his voice was soft, almost like a whisper carried by the breeze. Peace, he said, is not something you chase. It is something that appears when you stop running. The monks listened closely, their breaths sinking naturally with the rhythm of his words. Let me tell you one more story, the Buddha continued, one that has been passed down through many generations. It is simple, but the truth inside it is very deep. The grove became even quieter. There was once a village, the Buddha said, where a young man named Rayan lived. Rayan was kind, but his heart was restless. His mind jumped like a bird startled from branch to branch. He wanted happiness, he wanted peace, but he did not know where to find it. A few monks exchanged silent glances. They had known this feeling well. One day, the Buddha said, Rayan heard that a wise sage lived in the mountains far away. People said the sage knew the secret to unshakable peace, so Rayan decided to leave his home and seek this wisdom. The Buddha's eyes softened with a distant warmth, as though he could see that young seeker walking across the land even now. Rayan walked for 7 days through forests and fields. He crossed rivers, slept under the stars, and climbed rocky paths. On the 8th day, he finally reached the sage's hut. The monks leaned in a little. The sage was sitting outside, the Buddha said, weaving a small basket from reeds. He looked simple, ordinary, even quiet. Rayan bowed deeply and said, Master, I have traveled far. Please teach me the secret to peace. The Buddha paused before continuing. The sage looked at Rayan and said only 2 words, sit here. A few monks smiled softly. Rayan sat, the Buddha said. He waited. Minutes became hours. The sun moved across the sky. The sage continued weaving. Rayan grew impatient. His legs ached. His mind complained. The Buddha lifted his hand slightly. Still, the sage said nothing. Finally, he continued. As evening approached, the sage put aside his basket and said, Come back tomorrow. The monks listened in stillness. And so Rayan returned the next morning. Again, the sage said, Sit here. Again, Rayan sat. Again, the sage wove his baskets, and again he spoke no teaching. The Buddha's voice flowed like calm water. This continued for 7 days, he said. Rayan sat in silence while the sage did ordinary things, collecting firewood, tending a small garden, boiling rice. The forest seemed to absorb each word. On the 7th evening, the Buddha said, Rayan finally broke down. He fell to his knees and cried, Master, please teach me something. Anything. I have learned nothing. The Buddha's gaze grew soft, tender. The sage then walked to him, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and said, Look at yourself. On the first day, your mind was jumping like a frightened bird. On the second day, you were angry. On the third, you wanted to leave. On the fourth, you were full of doubt. But today, you are sitting calmly. You are breathing slowly. You are here. The Buddha paused to let the lesson drift into the monks' hearts. Peace, the sage said, is not something I can give you. Peace comes when the noise inside you finally grows tired of fighting. And in the silence that remains, you find yourself. A long, quiet breath seemed to move through every monk at once. The world will always be loud, the Buddha said gently, but your heart can be quiet. When you stop chasing, when you stop demanding, when you sit with yourself long enough, peace returns on its own, like a bird that trusts your open palm. Samid felt something loosen in his chest. A warmth spread through him, slow and steady, like dawn pushing back the last shadows of night. The leaves rustled gently above them. The day had grown brighter, yet the stillness of early morning remained in their circle. The Buddha closed his eyes briefly, as though offering a silent blessing to the moment. You are not separate from peace, he said finally. You are only separated from the belief that you must earn it. His words drifted out and settled softly into the world around them, like feathers floating down onto calm water. And in that quiet grove, with sunlight touching the earth and the river murmuring in the distance, the monks felt their minds settle. Not perfectly, but gently, honestly, naturally. For the first time that day, many felt a peace that did not need to be forced. A peace that simply was. The grove remained silent long after the Buddha finished speaking, as though the trees themselves were absorbing his words. A soft breeze moved through the branches, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and distant blossoms. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt heavy. It was the kind of stillness that arrives only when every mind in a place has gently let go. The Buddha opened his eyes slowly, the way one opens a window to let morning light in. His gaze moved across the faces of the monks, old ones who had walked long paths, young ones still learning how to sit with themselves, seekers who carried questions like stones in their robes. He smiled softly and began again. Peace, he said, is not the absence of sound, nor the absence of problems. Peace is the space that holds everything without breaking. The monks breathed deeply, letting those words settle inside them like seeds resting in good soil. To help you understand this, the Buddha continued, I will share another story, an old one, given to me by a wandering ascetic many years ago. The forest leaned closer. Even the river seemed to listen. The story of the wise gardener. There was once, the Buddha began, an elderly gardener named Haruto. His garden was famous across the valley. Not because the flowers were perfect, not because the shrubs were shaped neatly, but because anyone who entered the garden felt calm, as though they had stepped into a world made of silence and kindness. A faint smile appeared on a few monks' faces. They loved stories with such gentle beginnings. Haruto tended his garden every morning, the Buddha said. He moved slowly, never fighting the weeds, never forcing the plants to grow. He watered them with patience. He pruned them with love. The Buddha gestured softly with his hand. But nearby lived a man named Soren. Soren was wealthy, proud, and always in a hurry. He had built a grand garden of his own, large, elaborate, full of rare flowers. Yet no matter how hard he worked, his garden never felt peaceful. Something was always dying, decaying, or drying. The monks understood this type of struggle. One day, the Buddha said, Soren went to Haruto and asked, Why does your garden bloom while mine fails? You use no special tools, no rare seeds, no servants. Haruto simply smiled. Walk with me, he said. They walked among the plants. Haruto stopped beside a small bush with tiny yellow flowers. This one grows slowly, Haruto said. So I give it time. They walked further. This one needs shade, he said, pointing to a delicate plant. So I moved it away from the sun. Soren grew confused. But how do you know these things? He asked. Haruto knelt in the soil. By watching, by listening, by letting the garden tell me what it needs instead of forcing it to be what I want. The Buddha looked around the circle of monks. And then Haruto said something Soren never forgot. The garden blooms because I do not demand that it bloom. I simply care for it, and it responds in its own time. A deep quiet fell over the monks. That day, the Buddha said, Soren realized his garden failed because he tried to control everything. He forced water where it wasn't needed. He trimmed plants too early. He planted seeds too close together. He treated the garden not as a living being, but as a project to conquer. The Buddha's voice lowered, growing tender. Your mind, he said, is also a garden. The monks closed their eyes, letting the truth settle. When you force it to be quiet, it resists. When you judge it for growing wild, it becomes tangled with shame. But when you sit with it gently, like Haruto did with his plants, it softens. It relaxes. It begins to grow in its own way. A warm hush spread through the grove. Do not wage war against your thoughts, the Buddha said. Do not demand stillness. Do not punish yourself for being human. Instead, tend your mind the way a wise gardener tends the earth, with patience, kindness, and deep listening. His words moved like a calm river. When you stop forcing your mind to be peaceful, the Buddha said, peace begins to find its way back to you. The monks breathed as one, their shoulders loosening, their hearts softening. What once felt complicated now felt simple. What once felt far now felt close. A single leaf drifted down from the Bodhi tree, twirling slowly before landing at the Buddha's side. He looked at it with quiet affection. This leaf, he said, fell without effort. The tree did not cling to it. The wind did not force it. It simply followed its nature. He lifted his eyes again. When you learn to let go gently, without fear, without resistance, you return to yourself. And in that returning, you find the peace you thought you had lost. The monks sat in stillness, feeling something inside them shift, softly, quietly, naturally. As the night deepens around you, feel yourself gently settling into the quiet space within. A space where nothing is rushed, nothing is demanded, and nothing is expected from you. Just breathe, slowly, softly, peacefully. With every breath, your mind begins to drift into a softer rhythm, like a feather floating in the air, like ripples settling on a still lake. Tonight, imagine that you are walking through an ancient forest, a forest older than memory, older than time itself. The trees stand tall, their branches arching overhead like a protective embrace. Moonlight filters through the leaves and falls on the path ahead, illuminating it just enough for you to walk without fear. You take a slow step forward, and then another, feeling the earth beneath your feet, firm and comforting. There is no hurry here. The forest moves at the pace of eternity, and you too are allowed to slow down, to breathe, to simply exist. A gentle wind passes through the branches, carrying with it a soft whisper, a whisper that feels as if it's speaking directly to your heart. You are safe. You are guided. You are not alone. Let these words sink into your mind like warm light melting through ice. As you walk deeper into the forest, you see a faint golden glow appearing between the trees. You follow it effortlessly, almost as if your feet are moving on their own. Soon you reach a small clearing, quiet, open, perfectly still. In the center of the clearing sits a serene figure of light, not a person, not a deity, but a presence calm, gentle, eternal. Its light is warm but not bright, soft like a candle in a dark room, peaceful like the first moment of sunrise. You sit down in front of this glowing presence. There are no words, no instructions, only silence and a deep sense of connection. You close your eyes softly, and in that silence, something begins to change. The weight you've been carrying, the stress, the noise, the worry, the thoughts that never stop circling, begins to loosen. Just a little, then a little more. As if this presence is gently lifting the burdens from your shoulders, one by one. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to think. You don't need to try. Just breathe in and out. The presence places a soft radiance around your heart, like a warm blanket, like quiet morning sunlight resting on your skin. And for the first time today, maybe for the first time in a long time, your mind becomes still. Not empty, just peaceful. Like a calm lake with no ripples. Stay in this space, this silence, this deep, soothing calm. You are safe here. You are held here. You are allowed to rest here. Let yourself drift deeper into calm, into stillness, into peace. As you sit in the clearing, surrounded by the gentle glow of the presence before you, a soft stillness begins to expand inside your chest. It's almost like discovering a quiet room inside yourself that you never knew existed. A place untouched by worry, untouched by noise, untouched by the world. The forest around you remains perfectly calm. Not a single leaf trembles, not a single branch bends. Everything rests with you, breathing with you, slowing with you. You take a deeper breath now, slow and unforced, your lungs open like soft wings and your whole body sighs in relief. As you exhale, the warm glow from the presence spreads outward in delicate waves of light. These waves move through your arms, your hands, your shoulders, easing every place that feels tight or tired or tense. Another wave moves gently through your mind like warm water washing over stone, clearing away every leftover thought, every noise, every distraction. You feel lighter. You feel softer. You feel like you're slowly dissolving into the silence around you. The presence in front of you, still glowing softly, begins to shimmer as if breathing with you. With each inhale, its light deepens. With each exhale, its light softens. You realize something beautiful. This presence is not separate from you. It is a reflection of your own inner peace, the calm that exists deep within you, even on the busiest days, even in the hardest moments. You sit there quietly, feeling the truth of this connection. The presence leans forward slightly, not with urgency, but with compassion, and a small thread of light begins to flow from it toward you. This thread touches your chest, right at the center of your heart. The moment it touches, you feel a warmth so gentle, so comforting, that your eyes soften and your breath becomes even slower. This light begins to reveal something within you, a memory not of the past, but of who you truly are. A peaceful being, a steady being, a being made of quiet strength and gentle clarity. Someone who has always carried light within them, even in moments when it felt completely hidden. You allow this realization to settle inside you. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to figure anything out. You just sit and feel and let the peace grow. The forest silence deepens. A cool breeze brushes your face, soft as a feather. Somewhere far away, an owl calls, not loud, just enough to remind you that the world around you is alive and breathing with you. The presence withdraws the thread of light slowly, but the warmth stays within your heart, steady and glowing, like an ember that will never burn out. You place your hand gently over your chest, feeling that inner glow. You whisper to yourself, almost without sound, I am calm. I am safe. I am at peace. The words don't feel like affirmations. They feel like truths, truths your soul already knew, but your mind had forgotten. You close your eyes again, and the clearing fades softly into an even deeper calm. You feel yourself sinking not downward, but inward into the quietest part of your being, where there is no fear, no rush, no weight, just peace, just presence, just stillness. Here, in this inner sanctuary, you can finally rest. You can finally let go. And you do. With each passing moment, you drift deeper into a soft, effortless quiet that welcomes you like an old friend. The clearing around you grows even softer now, as though the night itself is drawing a warm blanket across the world. The presence beside you remains steady, its light no longer bright, but calm like a lantern protecting you in a deep and ancient forest. You breathe in again, and this time the air feels different, lighter, almost sweet. It carries the fragrance of night blossoms, a scent so subtle you feel it more in your heart than in your nose. With every inhale, your thoughts drift farther away, like small boats releasing into a wide, quiet river. With every exhale, your body loosens, as if the earth beneath you is gently holding you up so you don't have to hold yourself anymore. A soft glow begins to rise from the moss beneath your feet, a gentle silver blue light, as soft as moonlight falling through water. The glow spreads slowly, illuminating a narrow path leading deeper into the forest. The presence turns its face toward the path, not with urgency, but with an inviting calm. You feel a natural pull, a quiet curiosity, as though a door inside you is opening by itself. You stand up slowly, feeling no effort in your legs, no heaviness in your body, only a smooth, drifting ease. As you step onto the glowing path, you notice the ground beneath your feet is warm. Not hot, just warm enough to feel comforting, like stepping onto sun-kissed sand in the late afternoon. The presence walks beside you, not ahead, not behind, right beside you, as though it has been walking with you your entire life. The deeper you go into the forest, the quieter everything becomes. Even your mind, always busy, always turning, begins to soften like clay left in gentle rain. Your thoughts no longer form sentences. They become small, drifting shapes, puffs of mist that rise and dissolve before they become anything. Ahead of you, the path widens and the trees begin to part. You emerge into another clearing, this one larger, round like a bowl carved into the earth. At its center stands a single tree, tall, ancient, still. Its branches spread wide, yet seem to carry no weight. Its roots touch the ground like quiet fingers resting in deep understanding. The bark glows faintly, as though moonlight is growing from inside the wood. You and the presence walk toward the tree, and as you stand before it, a subtle shift happens inside you. A gentle realization, this place feels familiar, as if you visited it in dreams you barely remember. A soft wind stirs, and the tree releases a slow drift of tiny glowing leaves. They float downward like feathers, turning slowly in the air, each one glowing with a quiet, golden white light. One of the leaves lands in your open palm. The moment it touches your skin, you feel something, a warmth, a memory, a whisper. Not a voice you can hear, but a feeling you can understand. This is your stillness. It has always been here. You may rest now. You close your fingers around the leaf and press it gently to your chest, right over your heart. Your breath deepens without effort, without intention, as though your body knows exactly what to do when it remembers peace. The presence watches you carefully, its own light becoming softer, as if it is proud of you for simply being here, for allowing yourself to rest, for finally easing into the quiet that has always been waiting for you. You sit beneath the ancient tree and lean your back against its trunk. It supports you with the strength of centuries, but it feels weightless, gentle, alive. You can feel the slow pulse of energy moving through the wood, a heartbeat older than memory, but somehow perfectly in rhythm with yours. Your eyelids grow heavy, not with sleep alone, but with release. For the first time in a very long time, you feel like you do not need to do anything. Not think, not solve, not try. Just rest, just breathe, just be. The presence settles beside you, on your right, like a guardian made of moonlight and patience. The forest exhales around you, and a deep, deep silence settles, the kind of silence that feels like a safe room opening inside your soul. You let your thoughts drift away completely now. There is no need to chase them, no need to question them. They dissolve naturally like morning mist before a rising sun. You sink deeper and deeper into the quiet. Here, beneath this ancient tree, your heart remembers what peace feels like. It remembers who you truly are when the world is not pulling at you. And in this long, gentle moment, you rediscover yourself. You rediscover your breath. You rediscover your calm. You rediscover your inner light. Nothing else matters. Nothing else needs to matter. You are safe, you are held, you are finally resting. Time begins to move differently now, not faster, not slower, just softer, like a river that no longer rushes, but simply glides forward with no need to reach anywhere. You remain seated beneath the ancient glowing tree, your back supported, your breath steady, your heart unfolding in quiet layers. The glowing leaf you placed over your chest seems to melt into you, spreading its warmth gently through your ribs, your shoulders, your spine. The presence beside you sits with the same stillness as a mountain beneath moonlight, silent, steady, endlessly patient. And for a moment you feel as though the entire forest is breathing with you. And then the branches sway ever so slightly to the rhythm of your inhale. The moss beneath you settles deeper with your exhale. The sky above opens a little wider each time your heart softens. The world around you is no longer a place you entered. It is a place that rose to meet you, a sanctuary that appeared the moment you allowed yourself to rest. The ancient tree above you begins to glow a bit brighter, as if sensing that you are ready for the next layer of stillness. Soft lines of light travel up its trunk like gentle streams of water flowing upward instead of down. The light collects in the highest branches, blooming into small clusters of white star-like flowers. They open slowly, one by one, with no hurry, each bloom releasing a faint, shimmering dust that drifts through the air like quiet snowfall. As the shimmering dust settles upon you, something in your chest loosens even more. A small thought from far inside you comes up, but unlike before, it brings no tension. It simply rises like a bubble in water, soft, harmless, and then it disappears before it even reaches the surface. The presence beside you turns its face slightly toward you, not speaking, but offering a gentle reminder you can feel without hearing. You are doing beautifully. There is no judgment, no expectation, no measuring whether you are relaxed enough or peaceful enough. Everything you are doing is exactly right. The tree above you begins to hum softly now, a sound not heard by ears, but understood by the body. A vibration, a quiet resonance, like the earth singing a lullaby older than memory. You lean a little deeper against the trunk, and the vibration travels through your spine, up your neck, and into your mind. It is a soothing sound, a sound that smooths out the edges of old thoughts and gently wipes away the traces of stress that once clung to you. You feel your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your forehead soften. Your whole body shifts into a state of peaceful surrender. Above you, a small opening appears in the canopy of branches, a circular window to the night sky. Through it, you can see stars scattered like silver seeds across a velvet field. One star shines brighter than the rest, not harsh, not sharp, but softly glowing like a guide waiting patiently for you to notice. As you focus on that star, you feel something gently lift inside your chest, a weight you didn't realize you were still carrying. It rises slowly and dissolves like mist meeting sunlight. Your breath deepens again, naturally, as your body begins to absorb the presence of peace that will surround you. The forest grows quieter still, the kind of quiet that feels like a warm hand placed gently on your heart. Even your thoughts have grown tired now, not from struggle, but from finally being allowed to stop trying. They curl up in a soft corner of your mind and fall asleep. You feel the ancient tree lean its presence toward you, as if embracing you with its long, steady roots. And in that embrace, a simple realization comes. You are no longer just resting in a peaceful place. You are resting in yourself, in the part of you that has always been whole, always been safe, always been calm, no matter what storms you have walked through. You are not escaping the world. You are returning to the quiet center that was inside you long before the world became loud. The presence beside you places one hand gently on the moss. You mirror the gesture, placing your own hand beside it. The moss responds with a faint glow that spreads outward in ripples of soft silver light. Those ripples expand, circling the two of you, then expanding farther, touching each tree, each leaf, each stone, as if your calm is becoming part of the whole forest. The ripples move outward until they disappear beyond your sight, carrying your peacefulness across the night like a message written in light. You inhale deeply, feeling full and clear. You exhale slowly, feeling empty and free. The night holds you as gently as sleep holds a dream. And now, as your body drifts even deeper into rest, a new doorway of calm is beginning to open. The night around you deepens, not into darkness, but into a softer shade of calm. It is as though the world has pulled a warm blanket over itself, and you are resting inside its quiet folds. The shimmering dust from the starflowers above continues to drift down in gentle waves. Some particles land on your hands, some on your knees, and some on your cheeks, where they dissolve instantly into a feeling of warmth. You close your eyes for a moment, not out of tiredness, but because the inside of you now feels brighter than the world outside. In the soft darkness behind your eyelids, you sense a field of light spreading slowly, like the dim glow before sunrise. There is no image, no shape, just a presence, warm and comforting, as though the universe is gently placing its palm on the center of your heart. Your breath begins to match the steady rhythm of the forest around you. A long, smooth inhale and a slow, quiet exhale. With each cycle, you feel yourself sinking deeper into the moss beneath you. Not falling, not disappearing, but becoming lighter, as if gravity itself has also fallen asleep. The presence beside you remains in serene stillness. No words, no gestures, just a calm companionship that asks nothing of you. You realize that in this place, nothing wants anything from you. Nothing pulls at you, nothing demands your energy, nothing needs to be fixed, solved, or carried. For the first time in a long time, you are allowed to simply exist. And existence in this moment feels gentle. Far above, a thin stream of soft moonlight slips through the circular opening in the branches and lands directly on your forehead. It is cool at first, a delicate touch of silver, and then slowly it begins to warm, like a soft thought opening inside you. The moonbeam doesn't push or force anything. It simply rests upon you like a blessing from the night. As the moonlight settles, you begin to feel something unfolding deep within your chest. Not a memory, not a thought, just a quiet loosening, like a knot that has been held too tightly for too long, finally beginning to let go. You place a hand over your heart without thinking, just following what feels natural. Your hand rests there, warm and steady, and beneath your palm you feel a soft pulse, your life, your presence, your being. Slowly you become aware of how much pressure you've carried inside you without noticing. Expectations, worries, memories, old fears all quietly tucked away like stones at the bottom of a deep river. And now, in this forest of peace, you can feel those stones beginning to soften, their edges smoothing, their weight dissolving with each slow breath. The ancient tree above you seems to recognize this moment. Its glow deepens, the branches shifting slightly, as though acknowledging your release. A very gentle wind moves through the forest, the kind of wind that doesn't disturb, but comforts. It brushes against your cheeks, cool and soft, carrying the scent of distant rain and quiet earth. The presence beside you finally moves, not speaking, not turning, but simply placing one hand over its own heart, mirroring your gesture. You notice this and feel a small wave of warmth move through you, because in that simple movement, there is a silent truth. You are not alone on this journey inward. The forest, the tree, the night sky, the presence beside you, they are all keeping vigil as you go deeper into yourself. You let out a slow breath through your nose, your entire body loosening just a little more. The moonlight continues to rest on your forehead, growing warmer and softer, spreading across your mind like a smooth blanket, quieting every restless corner. Thoughts that once felt sharp now feel rounded. Worries that once felt loud now feel faded, like distant echoes. Your body grows heavier, your mind grows clearer, your heart grows calmer. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And as the forest grows even quieter around you, as if the entire world is holding its breath, you feel the night opening its next doorway of peace, gently inviting you to step deeper in this soft, healing stillness. The night around you grows even softer now, as though the world is slowly lowering its voice just for you. You can feel the forest settling deeper into its own peace. The trees stop swaying, the leaves stop whispering. Even the air becomes still and gentle, like a calm breath resting between inhale and exhale. You sit there quietly, feeling the cool moss under your hands, feeling the steady warmth inside your chest, feeling the moonlight rest lightly on your forehead like a soft touch of comfort. Each moment feels longer than the last, not in a tiring way, but in a peaceful way, a way where time does not matter anymore. You breathe in slowly and your breath feels smoother than before. You breathe out quietly and your whole body releases just a little more. As the minutes pass, you begin to notice how the forest is not just silent, it's listening. It is aware of you. It is surrounding you with quiet protection. The ancient tree above you glows softly, its branches curling like the arms of a guardian. A gentle shimmer moves across the bark, slow and steady, as though the tree itself is breathing with you. In this soft glow, you feel something simple and beautiful. You do not need to try. You do not need to think. You do not need to improve. You do not need to become anything. Right now, you are enough exactly as you are. This truth settles in you like warm light filling an empty room. The presence beside you remains calm and silent. You don't need to see its face to recognize the peace coming from it. It feels like an old friend, one you may have forgotten, but have always known. Somewhere above, a small breeze moves through the leaves, but even the breeze is slow and gentle. It brushes across your arms like a soft hand telling you to rest. You let your shoulders drop. You let your jaw loosen. You let the muscles around your eyes relax completely. Everything inside you begins to melt into the stillness. The star flowers above you continue to release tiny glowing dust, and each particle floats downward like a slow-moving snowflake made of light. A few specks land softly on your knees. A few drift onto your shoulders. One rests gently on your hand, and the moment it touches your skin, it dissolves into a small wave of warmth. This warmth spreads outward first through your fingers, then through your arm, then across your chest until your entire body feels wrapped in a gentle blanket of quiet comfort. The forest around you feels endless now. Every tree, every leaf, every stone seems to glow with a soft, restful energy. It feels like the whole world is guiding you closer to yourself. A deep, natural stillness begins to rise inside you, the kind of stillness that doesn't push away thoughts, but gently invites them to rest. You don't have to stop thinking. Your thoughts simply soften on their own. They fade like footsteps disappearing into snow. You inhale again, slow and easy. The air feels cool and pure, as though the forest has filtered it just for you. You exhale gently, feeling the tension leave your body the way smoke leaves a quiet candle. The presence beside you slowly places its hand on the soft earth, and when it touches the ground, a faint ripple of light moves outward in a perfect circle. The circle expands, passing over moss, passing over stones, passing across the forest floor, and when it reaches you, you feel a calm shift inside your heart. Not a shock, not a jolt, just a soft opening. A door has unlocked somewhere deep inside you, a door you didn't even know was closed. You sit with that feeling for a long moment. No rushing, no urgency, just a quiet awareness growing inside your chest like a small, gentle sunrise. And in that growing light, you begin to understand something. You are safe, you are held, you are exactly where you need to be. Tonight, the forest is teaching you the oldest lesson of all, the lesson of letting go, not by force, not by effort, but by simply being here, being present, being still, being open. The night deepens and your heart opens with it, softly and naturally, and the forest invites you deeper into this calm. And as he kept walking on that quiet forest path, he noticed something gentle happening inside him. Something he had never paid attention to before. It was the feeling of his own breath. Not a loud breath, not a forced breath, just a soft, natural wave, coming and going, like the sea touching the shore again, and again, and again, with no hurry, with no pressure, with no expectation. And for the first time in a very long time, he realized that he didn't need to reach anywhere. He didn't need to prove anything. He didn't need to hurry. The forest was not asking him to be faster. The wind was not asking him to be stronger. The sky was not asking him to be perfect. Everything around him was saying only one thing. Slow down. You are safe. You are allowed to rest. And he stopped walking. He simply stood there, feeling the earth under his feet, the gentle breeze brushing across his face, the quiet hum of life around him. Nothing dramatic, nothing mystical, just simple, natural, quiet presence. In that silence, he felt something loosen, as if a tight knot inside his chest finally exhaled. He didn't know what it was, an old fear, a forgotten memory, or just a heavy thought he had carried for years. But whatever it was, it left him slowly, like a bird finally given permission to fly away. And he whispered to himself, in the softest voice, "Maybe. This is enough." He didn't need answers. He didn't need explanations. He didn't need big reasons to feel peace. Sometimes, peace appears exactly like this, quiet, simple, without noise, without announcements. Just a gentle reminder that life still has softness in it, and you are still allowed to feel it. He took another long, slow breath, letting it fill him, letting it guide him, letting it comfort him. And then he walked again, not to reach somewhere, but just to walk. Slow steps, soft steps, present steps. Every leaf, every sound, every movement of the wind felt like a friend, a companion, a silent blessing. The forest kept whispering, and he kept listening. As he kept moving through the quiet forest, something beautiful began to happen. He started noticing things he had passed by his whole life without really seeing. A tiny leaf trembling softly on a branch. A ray of sunlight breaking through clouds, as if it had traveled across the universe just to touch the earth gently. A small patch of moss glowing green, like nature's own little lantern. None of it was extraordinary, yet all of it felt meaningful. He realized that peace doesn't always come in grand moments. Sometimes it hides inside the simplest things, waiting patiently until we are ready to notice. He slowed down even more. Each step became lighter, softer, quieter, as if he was learning how to walk again, this time with his heart instead of his feet. The air around him felt warmer, as if the forest was welcoming him, not as a visitor, but as an old friend who had finally returned after a long journey. He stood beside a tall tree, rested his palm on the rough bark, and felt the life inside it steady, grounded, ancient. And for a moment, he imagined all the years this tree must have stood there, through storms, through changing seasons, through the rise and fall of countless days. Yet it remained rooted, patient, calm. He wondered, what if I could be like this tree? Not rushing, not worrying, just standing strong in the simple truth of my own existence. That thought alone made his heart softer. He sat down under the tree, letting his back rest against its trunk, feeling the stillness seep into him slowly, deeply, quietly. He closed his eyes. The world didn't disappear. It simply softened. He could still hear the breeze, still hear distant chirping, still feel the heartbeat of nature around him. But everything felt gentler now. And in that softness, another realization came. He didn't need to heal everything today. He didn't need to solve his whole life at once. He just needed this one moment of quiet, of breath, of being. And that was enough. He took a long, slow inhale and let it melt into an even slower exhale. In that breath, he felt something shift, something light, something peaceful, something true. A small voice inside him whispered, "Stay here, stay in this stillness for just a little longer." And so he did. As he continued to sit beneath the old tree, a gentle quietness began to settle inside him, not forced, not created, just naturally unfolding the way evening follows sunset. He noticed his breath again, how it entered without effort, how it left without struggle. It felt like a reminder that life too can move gently when we stop gripping it so tightly. After some time, he slowly opened his eyes. Nothing had changed, yet everything felt different. The forest was the same, the sky the same, even the tree behind him the same. But the way he received the world was softer now. He saw a line of ants moving across a fallen leaf, small, patient, purposeful, each one doing just one task, one tiny step, one moment at a time. He whispered to himself, almost smiling, "Even they know they don't need to rush." He leaned his head back against the tree and let his gaze drift upward. The canopy was wide and full, layers of green dancing gently with the wind. And through the leaves, patches of sky appeared, blue, calm, endless. He remembered how earlier his mind had felt crowded, full of noise, full of thoughts pushing and pulling in every direction. But now he could almost feel the space opening within him, a space wide enough for clarity to breathe. For the first time in a long time, he felt no need to hurry, no need to understand everything, no need to be anywhere else. Just here, just this moment, just this breath. He brought one hand to his chest and felt the gentle rise and fall. It reminded him that he was alive, not in a busy, overwhelming way, but in a soft, quiet, calm way. He thought of all the days he had lived through, the difficult ones, the heavy ones, the confusing ones, and he realized something. Through every moment, his breath had stayed with him. Through every challenge, some deeper part of him had carried him forward. He felt thankful, not in words, but in a warm, steady feeling in the center of his chest. For a while, he simply sat in that feeling. The forest didn't rush him. The breeze didn't hurry him. Time seemed to slow down just enough for him to rest completely. The world outside became softer, and his inner world became quiet, a kind of quiet he wished he had found years ago, yet was grateful to find now. He closed his eyes again, letting the peace deepen, letting the silence widen, letting the moment be exactly as it wanted to be. And in that tranquil stillness, a gentle truth rose within him. Peace isn't something I find, it's something I allow. And as the quiet inside him deepened, he understood something softly, without words, without effort. That peace was not far away. It was here. It had always been here, waiting patiently beneath every breath. He stayed with that feeling for a little while longer, not holding it tightly, not trying to keep it, just letting it rest within him the way a feather rests on open hands. The forest around him seemed to breathe with him. The leaves shimmered gently, the air grew cooler, and the world, just for this moment, felt perfectly whole. When he finally opened his eyes, there was no rush to stand, no rush to return, no rush to do anything at all. He rose slowly, lightly, as though the earth itself was supporting every step. He took one last look at the quiet grove, smiled softly, and whispered a simple gratitude to the moment that held him. Then he walked forward calmer than before, clearer than before, more present than before. And as you sit here now, listening in the quiet of your own space, may the same gentle peace settle inside you too. May your breath soften, may your mind loosen, may your heart rest. You are safe, you are enough, and this moment is exactly where you are meant to be. When you feel ready, open your eyes or drift softly into sleep. The night will hold you. And if this meditation brought you even a moment of peace, you are warmly invited to return anytime. Unik Monk will be here with more stories, more calm, and more gentle spaces to breathe. If you found comfort tonight, you may like to watch more meditations on the channel. And if you wish, you can like this video, subscribe to Unik Monk, and continue this peaceful journey with us. Good night, and may the quiet stay with you.